Hey everyone, Todd from Sideshow Effects once again, and in this video I'm going to introduce you to the latest pack in our Davinci line. This time it's for the new Stream Deck Plus device. So now we have a Davinci pack on a Stream Deck device taking advantage of the new rotary dials. I'm going to show you how you can work in the color room better by being able to control printer lights and therefore manipulate your offsets and balance color a little easier. You'll be able to add grade versions and cycle through them. You can use the dial as a shuttle and jog wheel in the edit room, navigate the timeline, nudge clips, adjust the clip volume. In addition, you can control effect parameters both in the edit timeline by being able to control open effects and in the fusion room, being able to control all the parameters of any of the fusion nodes that you apply. And I'm going to go through each one of these workspaces and demonstrate how it's going to help you in your workflow. Now, when you first launch, you can see that we've got a main page here. These pages allow us to bounce into 8 different workspaces, and inside of those workspaces, we can, at the press of a button, bounce back to this main page and go anywhere else that we want to go. So on the top left here, we can start with the media workspace, and by pressing this button, it will launch the media workspace on the device, and it will also open up the media room in Davinci. And there you see it there. We have our media room open and our profile has changed to our media management workspace. Now you can see on the Stream Deck software it's indicating that we're using the pages feature, and it's showing that we have 4 pages in this particular workspace. Now how we navigate those workspaces is on the device here. You can see the display screen. The display screen acts as a display of what the functions will do for the rotary dial. Now that display screen also acts as a navigation device. So by swiping left or right, we can go through the pages that are built into this workspace. Page 2, page 3, page 4, and one more swipe takes us back to the main page. You can swipe to the right as well and do in the reverse. And you notice all of our command keys are different on each of these workspace pages. Now, this dial strip is not just a display, they are also active functions just like the buttons above them. So these buttons indicate that when you press one of them, it will change the color of the currently selected clips. So let's go to our media room here. We'll select this image and we want to give it a clip color. Let's say we're going to give it the lime green color, just by pressing on the lime green color on the dial strip itself. And there you can see it's applied the lime green color to that clip. Of course, we can always select multiple clips at the same time and then change them all to orange, for example. Or we can swipe down to pink, change them all to pink. Now this function also works in the edit timeline. So I switch over to the timeline here, and I just want to change the color of this clip. I just select that. Let's say I want to make it blue instead. And there you go. It changes the clip color on our timeline. Let's slip back over to the media room. And we'll go back to our main page. And I'll select just one clip here. And I'll show you what the rotary button does on this workspace. So the first rotary button will navigate through the different clips left and right. The next rotary button will navigate through up and down. So if we're trying to get to a particular clip, you can just go down, go over, select that clip, go up, etc. The next rotary dial over does an extension of your selection. So as you can see, we have the leftmost clip selected. By clicking the third rotary dial, we can extend that selection to the left. So now we have those 2 and those 3 are all currently selected. And the rotary dial on the far right does the same as the one on the far left. It selects left and right. Now those rotary actions are the same no matter which one of these particular pages you're in. They all perform the same way. In addition to those rotary functions, if you press any one of the rotary dials, you'll see that the display changes to a select icon. Now what this will allow us to do is select any clips of that particular color if you press that key on the dial strip. So let's go over to the timeline again. Let's select that. We've got that clip selected. I'm going to press this in, and I'm going to change its clip color to the orange. I'm going to click away somewhere else down the line so it is not selected. Now when I press in the dial and select and click the select orange clips button, now anything with the orange clip color is selected. So let's say that I select all these, and this is true with any one of these. Let's do the lime green. So let's make all of these clips lime green. Press it in, move down the line here, let's select something else entirely. So that now when I press the select lime green button, it will select all my clips that have a lime green color attached to them. You do have the added benefit, if you're in the timeline and not in the media room, that you can use this as a quick little jog function, such as going back and forth. So that's a quick review of the media workspace. Let's bounce out. As you can see, the top left takes us back to the main page. Now the next workspace over is our cut page, which also will give us our speed editor workspace. But I'm going to skip over that for now because I want to show you the next one first, which is our full-fledged edit workspace. And then we'll go back over to the cut workspace, because the cut workspace is a much more simplified version of the edit. So I want to show you the edit first. So by clicking on the edit key, that will take us to our editing workspace on the device and will open up the edit room in Davinci. So this works the same way as you just saw with the media room. You can see for our Stream Deck software, it's indicating that we have 6 pages of functions on this workspace. And just like in the media room, swiping left or right will give us access to all those different pages. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then one more will take us back to our first page of our edit workspace. Now on the first page of the edit workspace, just talking about the commands here, you can see on the 2 rows of commands we have our most used edit functions: insert, overwrite, ripple cut, etc. Swipe to the second page. More commonly used functions: in, out, mark clip, etc. Third page gives us some more functions: freeze frame, match frame, selecting clips, split clips, etc. The fourth page gives us some of the trim tools and gives us the transition key. Fifth page gives us some of our speed functions and keyframe functions, and our sixth page gives us some added functionality and also will allow us to control slider parameters in our effects, which I'm going to show in a minute. So one more swipe takes us back to the first page. So I want to talk about the dial strip, the rotary dials on this one. So the first dial is indicating it's a JKL function. So we when we rotate the dial, it's using it as a shuttle key. You can see we're moving back and forth here. And by pressing the key itself just above the rotary dial, that acts as a space bar, if you will. So it will pause and play it. So if I press it one more time, we'll play our timeline. Press it again, it stops. I'll just turn up the volume a little bit so we can hear a little something there. Okay, so that works as a shuttle function. And we can stop it by hitting the key itself. By pressing in the rotary dial, we change its function to now just being a jog function. So rotating the dial, jogs around. We still have the functionality of playing by pressing the key above. Pressing once again takes us back to the JKL. So there's 2 functions on this rotary dial. Next dial over, it's indicating that if we rotate the dial, we'll be selecting clip. Well, what we're doing is we are moving to all the different edit points in our timeline while snapping to each edit point. So if we're sitting here on this edit point, by pressing the select clip, it selects the clip we're currently sitting on. Okay, so by pressing in the dial, we get to the next function on this dial, and this one is nudge clip. So by rotating the dial now, I will be able to nudge this clip around. Pressing the nudge clip, we'll play that clip with about a 1 second handle, depending on what your preferences are set at. Pressing the rotary dial again, we have a slip audio feature. So if we have an audio, I'm going to just zoom in here. So with the slip audio feature, if we have an audio clip selected and we rotate the dial, we are slipping subframe our audio waveform. Press the rotary dial again, and this function will allow us to raise and lower the clip audio volume. Press the rotary dial once again, and we're back to the select clip. So this is just a marker navigation. So let's just zoom out our timeline here quickly. And you can see I've got some markers on the top of my timeline. Rotating this will bounce to each one of these markers back and forth. And if we go somewhere else in the timeline here, pressing this key will add a marker. And now we can still bounce between all the different markers. Pressing the rotary dial allows us to navigate keyframes. So let's say that we've got some keyframes. I'm going to just quickly add a couple here. And rotating the dial will navigate between those keyframes. Press rotary dial, get back to the marker. The fourth dial, rotating this, will zoom in and out of our timeline. Pressing the timeline button maximizes the timeline to the current viewed area. Press the rotary dial. This allows us to horizontally navigate our timeline. And pressing once again will maximize our view. Press the rotary dial, and we have a video target dial. So this will move the video target up and down. And pressing once more, we'll press the audio target up and down. One more press takes us back to the main timeline zoom function. Now let's swipe to page 2. You will see that these remain unchanged. The functions stay the same even though the top row has changed. Same thing with page 3. Now page 4, we notice there's a bit of a difference here because we put a lot of the trim tools here. So we actually have a trim function for the edit point type. So if I go into trim mode here and I select the edge here, let's zoom in on this so we can better see what we're working with here. I can change my edit point type to the left side, the right side, or the center. Now pressing the rotary dial, we have the familiar timeline zoom, timeline scroll available to us there. We've removed the video and audio target for this particular page. Swipe over to our 5th page. We're back to our original layout. Now to the 6th page, we have some new functions here. We still have the JKL and the jog. We still have the select clips and that bank on rotary 2. But 3 and 4 give us access to slider controls. Now I'll show you how that works. Now unfortunately they don't work on any of the parameters in the video side or in the audio side. How they become useful is when we apply effects. So if we go up and we apply any sort of effect, let's apply a lens blur to this clip here. And we click on effects. And now you can see we have a number of these effects that we'd like to be able to control. What we need to do is click on any one of these sliders Doesn't matter which one. Just click on one of the sliders first, and then go to your device, and using either the coarse or the fine control, you can rotate and now control that parameter. I'll use coarse to make even larger incremental changes, and fine to use smaller. Now if we want to go to the next parameter, we hit the down key. And now we are selecting the blade curvature. If you want to go down to rotation, hit it again. That'll take us down to rotation, and now we can adjust the rotation of this parameter. Want to go back up to blur size, press up and up again, and now we are changing blur size. And swiping once more, of course, takes us back to the first page of our Edit Workspace. So that's the Edit Workspace. So in version 2, we've added a couple of new things I just want to show you. In the Edit profile, swing to the Edit profile, you'll see where we used to have zoom on the 4th dial here. We had a zoom stack. We are now taking advantage of our plugin that we've developed. And as you can see here, we've got 4 items you can choose from without having to dive into a dial stack. So simply by pressing on that particular quadrant above the dial will control that command. So here, I'll show you how it works. Currently right now I have zoom selected, and you can tell it's selected by the green triangle. So if I have our mouse over top of our timeline and rotating, we can zoom in and out. Now by pressing on left right and clicking on left right, that allows us to scroll our timeline. Clicking on up down allows us, if we have more than one video track for example, to scroll up and down. And if I had more than one audio track, positioning the mouse over the audio track area would allow us to move up and down those. And then finally, clicking on here, we can control our track size. And keeping in mind, you do need to keep your cursor over the area. If your cursor's off the timeline, it's not going to have an effect. So leave your cursor somewhere in the timeline and you'll be able to make these controls work for you. Now this we have put on the first 5 pages, and then we go to the 7th and we have another new addition that we've included. And this is the transform controls. These will allow you to use your Stream Deck to control the various controls in the transform pane. So if I move my mouse off and I'm down here and I want to unlink the zoom X and Y, I can just press that button. What happens is the cursor moves to that position, clicks on that link, and returns back to where I had my cursor. And if I want to adjust zoom X, press that, start adjusting, and I can change my zoom X, press for zoom Y, and because they're not locked, they work independently of each other. If I wanted to lock them, I could just lock the two together, and then it doesn't matter which one I select, I'll be able to do a full zoom. I can jump to any one of these controls and start making my adjustments. Bounce back to the main. Now we can go over to the cut page. Now the cut page, when pressed, it will open up the speed editor workspace that we've built, and will open the cut page in Davinci. And of course the cut page in Davinci is designed to be designed for very quick workflows. So what we've done is we've taken the core editing functions that you find on the Blackmagic Speed Editor console, and we've kind of just put them into this particular workspace and kind of give it the same look and feel as the Blackmagic device itself. And you will see that we have the same familiar rotary dials that we had in the editing workspace. Some of the functions have been stripped out to simplify and make it easier just to bounce back and forth between them. So we have select clip, nudge clip there. We've moved the clip volume over to here so it's always available. And same thing with the marker. We just have the marker there. We don't have keyframes on this one. But JKL and jog are still here. And once again, we have 3 pages of core functions for editing. You don't have to work in Cut to take advantage of this workspace. You could just switch over to the timeline, to the edit room, and use these same functions. They all work just fine there. All right, so main takes us back to the main page. Now we're going to get into color, and hitting color will take us to our grading workspace and open the color room in Davinci. Okay, so here we are in the grading workspace that we've created, and as you can see from the Stream Deck software, it's showing that we have 7 pages in this particular workspace. Once again, swiping the dial screen will take us through the 7 pages. Page 2, which shows us node functions. Page 3 gives us a lot of our stills functions. Page 4 gives us some outlines and highlights. Page 5 gives us tracking and keying. Page 6 gives us our memories. And page 7 gives us our node trees. And I'll demonstrate that in a minute. One more page, page swipe takes us to the main page. Now, if you're familiar with our Davinci Pro Pack, you're familiar with our core functions that are available in our grading page. They're all duplicated here. But essentially, these are the most used tools that you would use during a color grading session. I'm not going to get into identifying each one of these because I want to focus on the rotary functions, which is new to our Davinci line. But I will point out one key that is important for this workspace is the printer light hotkeys. You do need to have your printer lights on inside of Davinci in order to access printer lights, which is what our rotary dials will control down here. And there is no visual indication in Davinci that printer lights are on other than the menu workspace itself. So if we go to color, you can see down here printer light hotkeys has got a check mark beside it. So it currently is on. Now with it being on, if I switch this and to have turned them off, and I can check it by going to color and see that the check mark is now off, and my printer lights won't work. But there's no indication that they're not working. So just make sure, and unfortunately there is no two-way communication. There's no way Davinci can let the Stream Deck know that something is off. It doesn't work that way. Stream Deck only sends information to the application. It doesn't go the other way. So there's no way for Davinci to tell the Stream Deck, hey, this is off, so display this. So you just have to make sure that you've got your printer lights on. That we can either turn it on there, or I'll use my key and turn it on here. All right. And double check and make sure, and it is on. Okay, so we got printer lights are activated. That's what our rotary dials will allow us to do, is change the different channels of our image. I'll turn on my primary bars here. By adjusting our red rotary dial, you'll see that we can raise red. You can see it in the offset primaries bar as well as in the waveform, because I've got a parade set up in the waveform to allow the individual channels to be seen. So by rotating this, that raises and lowers just the red channel. And of course, green raises and lowers green, and blue raises and lowers blue. And of course, the master will raise and lower all 3 channels together. Now, if I switch by pressing the rotary dial, I can get access to the other 3 printer light colors: cyan, magenta, and yellow. So now when I adjust the cyan, the green and blue will go up and down. Adjusting magenta, the red and blue goes up and down, and adjusting yellow, the red and green go up and down. And of course, you can do any combination of this as you like. The beauty of it is I can adjust things independently of each other by using 2 hands. Makes for a very intuitive workflow by being able to adjust your offsets very quickly and easily that way. And by switching over to the next page, you'll see that by switching back and forth, you can see that I've changed the different colors available here, but they are back to the red, green, blue, and master on this page. Well, this is by design. Let's say, for example, that I like working with this combination of cyan, green, and yellow, but I still want to have my functionality of red, green, blue here. Well, it's a simple swipe to adjust these, simple swipe. I don't have to set things up each time. Now by pressing on the first key on the dial strip, we add a serial node. The second key on the dial strip adds us a parallel node. The third will enable and disable the selected node, and the fourth will enable and disable the entire node structure. Now pressing the master key here once will get us into node navigation. So by rotating the dial here, we navigate through making our different nodes active. Pressing the fourth dial yet again, we'll get into stills. And then I'm going to make just some extreme adjustments here, just so we can see it visually easier. And I'm going to grab this still with the button there, make out a let's say a different combination. Grab this, and then go to green, and grab this. So rotating the dial now will cycle through the different stills. If I land on one that I like, I can play the still by pressing the button, and then of course we can just swing over and apply that grade. And pressing the dial once again will get us into versions. So I'm going to add this as a grade version by pressing the button here. Adds grade version. And perhaps let's just go back to our stills, select a different still, and we can apply that. And go back into versions, and we want to add that as another version. Bounce back up, and we'll select the green version here. We'll apply that grade. And then once more, go back down to versions, and we'll add this as a version. So we added in 3 different versions here. Now by rotating the dial, we can rotate through our different versions and decide which shot we want to use. One more press of the dial gets us into a jog function the way you've seen before. We can just jog through our shot and get to a different frame that will give us a better representation of the color we want to work on. Pressing once more takes us back to the master printer light. Now I'll swipe over to the node tree page. I'll just give a quick demonstration of this. We've had this in our Davinci Pro Pack for a while now. It proves to be quite popular. So what this is, these are really just macro actions that will pre-build a node tree structure for you that makes it ready for you to start your grading. So by pressing 4 nodes, what this will do, this will give us 4 nodes. They're all blank. Nothing happens inside the nodes, but it prepares them. So now we've got, this is just make these a little larger. So it labels each one of them. So and all these layouts that we've got in the node tree are taken from professional colorists. There's been a lot of forums around. You'll find online people discuss the best ways of working. Well, we researched all these, and we found that these node trees are the most agreed upon starting points for building your node tree structure. So in this one is a very simplified version. You start with your base grade, then you do your contrast, then you do saturation, and then you do your final trims on before output. Now let's just right click, and we're just going to reset all the grades and nodes. And then we'll go over to, we've got 5 nodes here. So this gives us the base grade, the contrast, and the saturation, but also adds in a secondary node that we can do secondary color corrections on, and then the trim final output. We'll reset this, and then we have 7 nodes. So it starts off with a denoise. A lot of colorists prefer to denoise before they do any grading at all. So it does a denoise, gives us a base grade, a saturation, puts in a sharpen node, a vignette node, a grain node, and then a final trim. Reset this, and we're going to go to 8 nodes. So once again, we have the denoise and the base grade, saturation, and then we have 3 secondaries in a layer stack. Allows us to apply some power windows to those and have different secondaries, and then to a sharpen and a trim. And then we go to 11 nodes, Now this gives us a bit different of a structure. It gives us layers in left, right, and center masks to adjust different parts of your image. Has a log adjustment node. Has a free node for one that you can either do your own manipulations in, or you could delete it entirely. And then you have open effects, and then vignette and trim. Then we go to our 16 node. So the first node on this one is to indicate your color space or change your color space. And then we have a layer stack that has shadows, midtones, and highlights. We have a skin tone node. We have 3 secondaries, sharpens, vignettes, and grain and trim. And don't forget, you can also take pieces of these nodes and copy them and paste them into your existing node tree. If you just wanted the secondary stack or just the shadows, mids, and highlights stack, you can copy those and paste them into your existing node. All right, 17 nodes. Much the same as the previous one, adds a denoise at the beginning, has a secondary stack and a window stack right afterwards, gives you a look node, a vignette, an outside node, and then an open effects that will apply the effect to just the opposite of the vignette. And then finally, the granddaddy of them all, 18 nodes. So there you have it. You have a secondary stack, you have a hero stack, and a look node, curves, sharpen, and effects, and vignettes, and grains. Everything you could wish for in one node tree. Now, one other thing that we've added in, I'll just demonstrate. In the color profile, if we go to the last page, you'll see we've got a wipe overlay page added in here. And if I'm in color in Davinci and I'm working with wipes, I'm going to show a reference wipe. And now, by adjusting, I can move my wipe up and down. And if I have a horizontal wipe, I can move it horizontally. And we've also just put in a handy zoom, dial, and reset. So let's bounce out to the main page. We've got a Multicam Workspace here. Once again, the JKL keys, and we can, with the rotary dial, we can switch our multicam angle, and we can switch the multicam page. We can change our viewing options with this workspace. We have a cut multicam workspace so that when you're playing your multicams, you can cut in real time with these keys. And one more swipe, we can switch to the multicam with these keys here. And you still have your angle and your page rotary dials. One more swipe, main page. We're going to talk about Fusion. So pressing the Fusion key will open our Fusion Workspace on our device, and also open up Fusion in Davinci. So as you can see from our Stream Deck software, it's indicating that we have 6 pages in this workspace. And as before, swiping the dial screen takes us to those pages. So this gives us the top 2 keys, the top 2 rows of keys will cycle through the most often used Fusion nodes available to us. So swipe page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5, and page 6, and you notice our dial strips stay the same through all of these workspace pages. Now what we have is we have a JKL key, also with the jog. On number 4 over here, we have our timeline view. So we can zoom out our timeline as we need. Now, what the 2 keys do here, these will allow us access to the different slider parameters of the nodes that we put into our Fusion stack. So let's just add one here. Let's say we're going to add in a fast noise, so that adds it into our node tree. Now what we'll need to do is, this is different than the way we controlled the effects in the edit room. If you recall, we selected the slider itself in the effects, and then we're able to control its parameter. That's not the way we do it in Fusion. We need to select the actual integer box itself to make it highlighted, and now we can start controlling. So now when I rotate our slider key, you can see I'm moving the the parameter, and the next rotary dial over takes us up and down through the different parameters. So let's change the size here. So we'll move to size, and we'll adjust our size up and down. We can change the angle. Anything that's an integer is where we're going to tab to next, so we can adjust subtractive, additive, and this works with any of the Fusion FX. So let's say we want to try something different here. Let's just delete these. We can go to, say, shape 3D. So now we have a shape. We can press 1 on our key to get our plane here. We're going to select a shape here. Let's select a cylinder. Now I can select on one of the parameters. I'm going to change the radius of this, change the height. So that's Fusion. Back to the main page. Let's take a look at Fairlight. So by hitting Fairlight, we're going to open up our Sound Fairlight Workspace and open up Fairlight in Davinci. So once again, looking at our software, we have 3 pages in this profile, in this workspace that we can access. More commonly used Fairlight functions. We have our JKL keys and the jog. Now on the second slider here, let me just my note here. You can see on our far rotary that we can use our zoom function here. We can nudge subframe, so we can nudge our waveform back and forth, and we can nudge the clip itself in 1 frame increments. So by clicking nudge subframe, clicking once more in whole frame increments. Next one over is our clip volume. So this will adjust the clip volume. And our timeline zoom like I showed you, and clicking once again will change the waveform view. So this doesn't change the volume, this changes the view size of the waveform in the clips. Back to the main page. So the last one we have is Printer Light. So by hitting Printer Light, it will open up a Printer Light workspace on our device, and it will open up the color room once again on Davinci. And you will see that we have the same sort of, it looks very similar to our grading page, except it's a lot more simplified. You can see we only have 3 pages here. So we have 3 pages of our core functions of editing, but this is designed specifically for a Printer Light exclusive workflow. And what I mean by that is, even though the red, green, blue masters still have access to our cyan, magenta, and yellow controls, by swiping, these don't stay the same. They now, when you swipe, we now have access to our half printer lights. Swipe once more, we have access to our quarter printer lights. And in case you're not too familiar, the half printer lights is just more of a finer control of, now we control the red channel and the green channel and the blue channel by finer increments. And once more into quarter lights, even finer increments. Other than that, all the parameters of these printer lights work the same as they did in the grading workspace that we showed earlier. So that's it. That is our Davinci pack for the brand new Stream Deck Plus, using full advantage of the rotary controls. We're very excited for everybody to get their hands on this. We think it's going to open up a whole world of possibilities for you and have another wonderful hardware asset on your desktop to help your grading sessions and your editing sessions go a lot smoother. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you next time.